It's June in the good old United States of America, so you know what that means. Yippee! Happy Pride Month, everyone! Hi everyone, my name is Saphera the Noma, but you can call me Saph. In case you didn't know, I'm asexual, maybe aromantic too. Still haven't done my research into that one for a few years now. But anyway, I proudly identify as queer. But y'all aren't here to learn about me. Nah. You want to know about this other VTuber, the one who decided to be openly and unashamedly homophobic in the arguably queer-friendly Project Moon community. Before we get into it, just a reminder to not harass this individual. I do not condone such vitriolic behavior. Now, let's get right into it. It all started on June 1st, 2024, the first day of Pride Month, at least here in the US. As Pride Month typically goes, supporting artists like to draw their favorites being either queer or an ally to queer folk. And people in the Project Moon community did not disappoint. We have art of a cute, long, blue-haired person named Bong Bong, holding the pride flag with the caption, "Happy Pride Month." Pretty innocuous, fits the month, and is really cute art. But suddenly, this independent VTuber named Guardian Zet, or Zet for short, decided to quote retweet this cute art with the following phrase: "Look how they massacred my girl." And oh lottie, no one could expect just how swift and coordinated the counter-response was to this homophobic tweet. You can see hundreds of replies were made to his quote retweet, and over 90% of these replies are just copy-pastas along the lines of, "My MetaMask wallet got hacked, drained. I need an what the f is this? I need an IPTV comms. My Instagram got hacked and I need someone to write me an essay, make Twitch emotes. My account got suspended, banned, need help, my NFT Robux, I need sugar mommy, I need sugar daddy." To lure in more bots to this post. I've never seen anything like it, and honestly, it's pretty hilarious. Also, just to add, I understand and respect that everyone has different ideologies. However, if your ideologies actively seek to harm, demonize, or suppress people in a community you're actively in, and taking advantage of queer creatives despite hating them, then we got issues. Not to mention, I personally think Zet has some dangerous extremist beliefs, which can all be seen in his public likes and retweets even to this day. But we'll discuss that a little bit later. But before we get more into Zet and who he is, I should clarify a few things just in case. First off, what is Project Moon and their community? Project Moon is an independent South Korean video game development studio founded in November of 2016. They are most recognizable for their indie game, Lobotomy Corporation, to which many may remember as that SCP-like management game, which was definitely popular back in the day when SCPs were all the rage. Even Jacksepticeye played it, though that was definitely an older version of it. But Project Moon has also released other games that you may have heard of in passing, such as Library of Runa, a deck-building card fighting game, and Limbus Company, a free turn-based gacha game. I wanted to take some time to talk about these games because I recently got into Project Moon's games, and like everyone who gets dragged into this fandom of a cult, it's my turn to try convince you to come play this awesome game with its deep, rich world building and dark fiction dystopian lore and suffer the brain rot like I have. Okay, slightly joking. Kinda. They are good and unique games though, but they're definitely not for everyone. But I highly recommend you check them out after this video. Anyway, what makes Project Moon's games community unique is that these games, in the long scheme of things, are niche as fuck, and have by far one of the most active fan bases I've witnessed in a very long time. And trust me, I've been in many fandoms. I've seen many fandoms. And you know, of course, big fandoms like Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, My Hero Academia, Undertale, pretty much anything remotely mainstream are always full to the brim with fan creations, because they also have, well, a huge fan base. Compared to these titans, Project Moon's games and their fandom population is like a speck. A meager fraction, perhaps even just a microscopic sliver. But these people are by far the most passionate and dedicated fan base I've seen in a long, long time. I can safely refresh my Twitter feed and be blessed with dozens of new fan art from all around the globe, from the Western fandom to the Eastern fandom, of fan art or memes for any of these three games because they all share the same in-game universe. This fan base is so dedicated and affectionately considered a cult following because, well, they kind of are. chances are there's a sleeper agent just waiting for certain trigger words like red mist or big bird or ideal or black silence that they're just waiting to pounce on. Hell, if you've read some comments on my previous videos, some of those very agents detected the Project Moon stuff I've hidden in each of those videos. And chances are you've seen this meme or a rendition of it float around before. And that, my friends, originated from Lobotomy Corporation. You're welcome for the information. But anyway, why am I mentioning this fanbase and game so much? Well, that's because this community is arguably queer-friendly. That doesn't mean everyone is queer, but just that many are either queer, an ally, or at the very least, not openly against gay people. But also, Zet here is a longtime Project Moon content creator. One can even say that he is one of the OG members of the community. Zet tasted their first bit of success over 3 years ago when he made memes for Lobotomy Corporation that racked in a fair number of views on YouTube. Since then, he's done many videos and streams revolving around Project Moon and their games, starting with Lobotomy Corporation, to Library of Ruina, to Limbus Company, though he seems to greatly favor Lobotomy Corporation. In fact, he favors Lobotomy Corporation so much that he even calls his community Nuggets, the same term for the controllable characters in Lobotomy Corporation. And he even has a VTuber model styled after the characters in Lobotomy Corporation. So, how is it that this individual here managed to garner such support despite being in a queer-friendly community while also being homophobic? Well, that's just the question, isn't it? First, let me go over why I personally believe Project Moon's games are, in some regards, queer-friendly or possibly even, quote, woke by some people's standards, and why their games have drawn in their queer-friendly audience. However, I want to inform you that Project Moon themselves have not publicly or openly stated that anything or anyone is, indeed, canonically queer or woke. Everything is up to your interpretation, but there are definitely some canonical things in this game that will make the average person pause and think. Let's make it a little interactive even. Pop quiz time! And don't worry, it's okay if you get any of these wrong. I'm gonna give you guys 3 questions. For each question, it's a simple answer, okay? Let's begin. First question. What gender are these 3 people? Male or female? The answer is male! All 3 of these are male characters. Yippee! Second question. Match the names to the character you think it belongs to. The answer, from left to right, is Emma, Alfonso, and Tanya. The third and final question. What is this person's canonical pronouns? The answer is they and them. The story canonically refers to this character using they and them pronouns. So, what did we learn today? Well, we learned that Project Moon's games and designs are, at times, very gender. When I say gender, I mean it's very ambiguous at times. For example, a character that appears female is actually a male, or a character that has a male name is actually female. There is also virtually no traditional fan service in any of their games that you may be used to in most other gacha games or anime. Upskirts or jiggly physics and scantily clad ladies? Basically non-existent. Any sexual themes? Nope, none at all. Everyone's pretty much in suits and presumably binders, cause bro, I ain't seeing barely any chesticles on these ladies. And hell, they even put men in dresses. This game is hilariously asexual friendly for being a gacha game, and I fucking love it because my ace ass couldn't ask for anything better. Dark fiction, great world building, character designs that appeal to my taste in all genders, like fuck yeah. The only quote fan service in this game is if you're really into characters beating the shit out of you with a dose of blood or murder, you are going to absolutely love this game. Seriously. There's also a few bits of story in all 3 games that are arguably pretty subtextually gay, also because the source material they reference on is, at times, pretty gay. But we'll get into that near the end of the video because of potential spoilers. So for now, we'll return our focus to Zet and his numerous transgressions. Before we delve into it, a few disclaimers. We will be discussing briefly about the following: homophobia, transphobia, racism, Nazis, anti-Semitism, and misogyny/SA. If these are uncomfortable topics for you, please skip to the next section at the timestamp. In regards to this quote retweet, some might be like, oh, but surely he's just making a joke? Well, even if it was one, which it isn't, that's just a really shit joke to do on Pride Month, let's be real. But also, here's some proof of his misdeeds. In his recent likes, we have this video that's anti-Pride.
I don't really want this.
And yeah, if you're coping hard enough, you can argue, oh, but maybe he's just against the capitalistic companies giving out cheap rainbow merch during Pride Month. And okay, if you really want to cope, then please do try to explain him liking this post comparing Pride Month to being the same as a PDF file. Yeah. I don't know about you, but I sure as hell am not a pedophile, and I'm the furthest thing away from that for real, given that, you know, I'm asexual. Good luck with that, bro. Anyway, he also proudly retweeted this quote retweet of a clip from the streamer Taylor Morgan that you might have seen before, where she showed a Valorant match that she was playing where a guy in the voice call was sexually harassing her and saying effed up shit like if she knew what it was like to be raped and how it can't be considered rape if he likes it.
Oh, be honest with me.
My ult's ready.
Do you know what rape feels like?
No, I don't actually.
Well, do you want to know?
Are you saying you're gonna rape me?
Because you're heading on the right path right now. It's not rape if I like it. Is it now? Hectic, oh.
To anyone with a functioning brain and an iota of sympathy, you'd realize that's fucked up and heinous shit to say, and that guy should get consequences. The fact that this quote retweet to such a gross situation is essentially dismissing her experience and telling her to get over it only shows how they are being flippant, disregarding how often harassment comes to females in male-dominated spaces, and victim blames her because they called her reaction faked for content. This tweet shows blatant disrespect for women, and Zet retweeting it says a lot about his character. In my opinion, this is pretty misogynistic. Also, Valorant had this to say on their social media platform regarding just mute.
When you tell someone to just mute comms to avoid harassment, you are essentially putting the harassed person in a position to not communicate, to compromise how they want to play the game to accommodate you. Muting is a tool for people who choose to use it, not something that is there to justify bad behaviors.
In this next retweet of his, he retweets this absurd quote retweet about a situation where a German politician from an extreme right-wing party was singing "Germany for Germans, foreigners out," and mimicking Hitler down to the hail and even his mustache. I shouldn't have to point out why this guy is being completely racist when the song literally says "foreigners out" and, you know, Hitler committed genocide because the Holocaust. But clearly, some people are incapable of understanding how to make a proper argument and instead make some bullshit half-truth to try to justify their bigoted beliefs. I suggest Zet go back to school and get a history lesson on World War II, because it seems like he might need it to refresh his memory on why what Hitler and Nazis did are bad. He also retweeted it again, this time the video itself with a more neutral caption, seemingly to make his point across that he's openly in support of the Nazis in the video. To further his perceived allegiance towards Nazi belief, he also retweeted this post about Jewish people being in positions of power, and how the quote retweet says, "At a fraction of the world population, this should be impossible," which honestly just comes off extremely anti-Semitic to me. He also makes retweets that come off as anti-woke, such as this post about an anti-woke game modding forum and demonizing how localizers are fixing games to be more woke, like, you know, the Paper Mario fiascos recently. I'm honestly surprised there isn't one about Vivian being trans in this section, because Zet also likes posts where people are misgendering trans women and being transphobic. And just to carry the point home, he even quote retweets "Would you date a trans person?" and basically calls them the equivalent of a groomer. There's also quote retweets by this guy where he openly hates Western media and thinks they're dying because, presumably, in my opinion, he thinks they're dying because they're being more inclusive of more body types and black people representation, whereas his examples of good media is a female-dominated cast of big-breasted anime women with unrealistic proportions because presumably they cater more to his Coomer brain. Beyond his narrow-minded and, in my opinion, bigoted beliefs, he's also been in a bit of fandom discourse when there was a big drama and divide in the Project Moon community back in summer of 2023. A quick summary is around that time, a summer event would be coming out. We got 2 summer characters, one being Ishmael in a skin-tight wetsuit, and another being Sinclair where he had more revealing skin than any character thus far, along with a cute little choker on his neck. This upset the South Korean equivalent of 4chan incels, causing them to have a fit about why there was no scantily clad swimsuit babes, when literally that would not fit in the dark universe of Project Moon's games at all. Regardless, these basement dwellers try to find an artist to pin the blame on because, if you didn't know, there is a gender war going on in South Korea, and feminism there is a controversial and even dangerous topic. I won't delve into it here, but let me know if you want a longer video about this in the future. Continuing on, these desperate men found a female artist by the name of Vel Mori, who's done the cutscene graphic art up to this point in Limbus Company's story. You can see she has a very distinct and unique style, and I love her art. But unfortunately, due to the incels and their determination to metaphorically burn someone at the stake for perceived injustices, they found that she had made feminism-like tweets over 5 years ago, way before she was an artist for Project Moon's team, and demanded that she be fired to atone for them not getting busty swimsuit babes because they wrongly assumed she was the artist who made these character designs. That turned out to not be true though. The character designers of these particular summer event identities is actually a male artist. But the incels wanted to bully a female out of the industry because they are, well, anti-feminist. A lot of fallout happened during this time, as much misinformation was being thrown around, and there was a definitive language barrier that restricted the flow of easy-to-read information. This whole fallout also led to a good chunk of Korean artists disappearing and deleting their fan art accounts out of perceived gender inequality. Many fan artists went silent during this time, bating their breath to see what would happen next, to determine whether it was worth staying or to move on to a different fandom entirely. Zed took this time to side with firing the artist, saying things like, "To no surprise, a game journalist doesn't get it correct. Also, no surprise that Twitter actually listens to them." When the game article revealed the truth, which is that, well, a female illustrator got blamed for a design that she didn't make. I don't know where Zed got his information from, but whatever he had was the wrong stuff. He also says, if this makes more of the Tumblr/Twitter fanbase leave Limbus Company and Project Moon, I see this as an absolute win. Please boycott the game harder. Presumably because he hates the queer-friendly fandom, so he wanted the Twitter and Tumblr people to leave so he can have it all to his lonesome, red-pilled self. As the situation was being resolved slowly but surely, he once again interjects with his opinion where he openly licks Project Moon's boots, and okay, in the end, I personally still support Project Moon, but I do and have criticized their mistakes and how they handled things that impacted the fandom. If I ever make that full video outlining this history, I'll go into detail there. But ultimately, Project Moon is not the bad guy that they briefly appeared to be at the beginning of this whole fiasco. Vel Mori was let go because she wanted to leave of her own volition, and Project Moon continued to defend her and took on numerous slander attempts by a politically motivated party that was actively trying to use them as an example in South Korea. Ultimately, that politically motivated party lost in the public opinion's eyes and moved on to other game studios, and Project Moon and its community would slowly return back to normal operations with time. Though the damage can still be felt through the fandom, especially when looking at what once used to be a thriving Korean fanbase on Twitter. But what's interesting here is Zed licking Project Moon's boots, because remember, Project Moon's games are, in some regards, woke. There's characters that are literally the epitome of gender and androgynous, including a canonical non-binary main character in Limbus Company, and not to mention the occasional subtextual gay moments within the stories. I'm going to take a brief section to go over possible spoilers for moments in all 3 games, and even a webcomic that's related to the first game. And I'll be going over each subtextual moment as briefly as possible. Feel free to skip to this timestamp if you wish to avoid spoilers. We'll start with Zed's least favorite game from Project Moon by far, Limbus Company. As said, Limbus Company is a free gacha game which you can play on Steam and mobile. Wink, wonk. Play it. Anyway, the funny thing about Limbus Company is that each of the main characters, known as sinners, are based on classic books from various regions. For instance, Ishmael is from Moby Dick, and there's a decent section in her in-game story where it's her and Kikeg having their heartfelt moments together. The scenes range from Kikeg telling Ishmael to tie her rope onto her waist before a dangerous descent, to Ishmael saying she felt soothed by her words, soothed by the idea of someone to catch her and watch over her, to literally seeing Kikeg being her shining light of hope out of a dark situation with a rope that would never break, to Kikeg saying that she never forgot and wanting to see the sunset and liking Ishmael's hair because it reminded her of the sunset. And another where Ishmael says, I sketched something for myself too. In that sketch, I'm walking alongside Kikeg in some small port shrouded in mist and the smell of fish. And we kept sketching. How we will continue to live out the rest of our days. How we will persevere. And I can't, you guys, this is too sweetly gay! Like, nothing is ever explicit about these two smooching or anything, but anyone with a literature sense can understand that, man, these are not just simply good friends unless you're deluding yourself for real for real. If you want to refer to the source material, then here's a passage from Moby Dick about Ishmael and Kikeg, who, in the book, are two males. If there yet lurked any ice of indifference toward me in the pagan's breast, this pleasant genial smoke we had soon thawed it out and left us cronies. He seemed to take to me quite as naturally and unbidingly as I to him, and when our smoke was over, he pressed his forehead against mine, clasped me around the waist, and said that henceforth we were married, meaning, in his country's phrase, that we were bosom friends. He would gladly die for me, if need be. In a countryman, this sudden flame of friendship would have seemed far too premature, a thing to be much distrusted, but in this simple savage, those old rules would not apply. Another passage, as well, from Moby Dick. So I kindled the shavings, helped prop up the innocent little idol, offered him burnt biscuit with Kikeg, salaamed before him twice or thrice, kissed his nose, and that done, we undressed and went to bed, at peace with our own consciences and all the world. But we did not go to sleep without some little chat. How it is I know not, but there is no place like a bed for confidential disclosures between friends. Man and wife, they say, they're open the very bottom of their souls to each other, and some old couples often lie and chat over old times till nearly morning. Thus, then, in our heart's honeymoon, lay I and Kikeg, a cozy, loving pair. Homosexuality? Like, bestie, I don't know about you, but this is pretty gay for the time it was written, and I think Limbus Company did a good job being faithful to the gay subtext, and even gender bent them to make them lesbians instead. Yippee! Also, if you still don't believe any of this is gay, literally just look up Moby Dick, Ishmael, and Kikeg, are they gay? And you can go read the discussions there. I don't know how to help you if you refuse to believe old books hid their gayness. But if one old gay book wasn't enough, what about the book Demian? A book about a young boy named Sinclair and his journey through childhood to a young adult. In this book, you got Sinclair, the main character, and another character named Demian. Only, in the book, we get this passage. Yet this time it was Demian who knelt on me, and this was totally new and left a deep impression on me. Everything I had resisted, and that had been agony to me when Cromer was my tormentor, I suffered gladly at Demian's hands, with the feeling compounded as much of ecstasy as of fear. I had this dream twice. Later in the book, he paints a portrait of a woman named Beatrice to which he was smitten with at the time, only to realize he painted a portrait of Demian. Like, fellas, is it gay to paint a homie of the same sex when you were down bad? Be for real, for real. How Limbus adapted this story is that, well, we're still in the early parts of the book as far as Sinclair's story goes, but here's him meeting Demian for the first time, them meeting eye contact, and Sinclair blushing afterward. Then, later in the story, Demian says he wants to see Sinclair completely bare. Like, man, But I suppose talking about Limbus Company and how some parts are low-key gay won't get to the Zet guy who clearly lacks reading comprehension. You see, in Canto 6, which is about Heathcliff from the book Wuthering Heights, those familiar with the source material will know it's a pretty effed up book about unhealthy obsessed love, rejection, and revenge marriages? I haven't read the book myself, but I did look at the wiki and like a family tree and heard from some people, and honestly, it looked really wild over there in the source material. And Limbus Company took their own unique spin on it while still making nods to the source book at times. While pretty much most of the fandom agrees that the chapter was by far peak, and one of the best that Project Moon has released so far. By the way, Limbus Company is a free game. Zet, on the other hand, feels pretty differently. He says, Kanto 6 has got to easily be the worst Kanto so far. Only good thing from it has been that awesome Castlevania boss music. And later, the best part about Kanto 6 is that it can only go up from here. There is no way they flub the next Kanto. And then someone says, okay, now bite. What exactly is bad with this Kanto? And Zet says, story-wise it's about two dudes simping so hard for a woman who doesn't deserve their love since she was literally gonna cuck one of them for her goal. Production is through the roof, though, so next Kanto is gonna be awesome. The PM parts were cool as fuck. Music was awesome too. And like, this guy seriously didn't play the same game that I did. Yes, there is a bit of a love triangle there because that's literally in the source material. You have Catherine, Linton, and Heathcliff. But in Limbus, it was a complex story about miscommunications, misunderstandings, and how that leads to grief and regret. I don't know how you can just look at it and go, oh, cuck is here, goodbye. I forgot how to use my eyes all of a sudden. Like, there is a phrase Project Moon fans use often, which is PM fans can't read, because a lot of their games involve a little bit of reading to progress in fights and stuff. But Jesus Christ, this guy cannot read for real, because he didn't play the same game as pretty much the rest of the fan base. His takes were so bad, people literally thought he was baiting. But it's okay. I know he hates Limbus Company because he thinks Arknights is the best gacha game despite being a PM bootlicker. And he apparently, according to someone in my community who watched his streams in the past, said that he suffers from skill issue-itis because bro was raging over RNG when in reality, he probably had a really shitty team. Like, I know I struggled a bit at certain points, but not enough to be angry for real. Anyway, if Limbus isn't his jam, what about some gay in Library of Runa? It's really subtle for this one, but the one that comes to mind is Emma and Noah. If I recall correctly, Emma just wants Noah to be happy to the point that Emma will give Noah money, which is hard to come by in the city. These two men soon get wrapped up in bad company and literally get some body parts swapped around, with Noah gaining Emma's eyes and Emma gaining Noah's legs. They are fundamentally reliant on each other to navigate, and even when you fight them, you're beating them up as one unit until you can separate them when they get staggered. If you kill one before the other, their dialogue is just so fucking sad. But if that isn't enough to convince Zet, then let's focus on Lobotomy Corporation, the game that he seems to main the most. Real quick, Lobotomy Corporation had a webcomic called Wonder Lab that was set in the same world, but was a branch of the Lobotomy Corporation in a different part of the city. This was considered canon for a few years by Project Moon until the summer 2023 fiasco, when the comic artist no longer felt comfortable with the perceived gender inequality and wanted her comic removed. Now, Wonder Lab is no longer available on any public platform. But I had a chance to read the webcomic before the controversy, and let me tell ya, all the characters here have no definitive gender, and these three are super mega fucking gay. Literally, this one, named Kat, had buried their heart because they were afraid of getting close to anyone ever again, considering death happens all too often in the city. Unfortunately for Kat, there were two individuals that were hell-bent at becoming closer to them named Rose and Ty. Massive spoilers ahead because I'm gonna tell you how it ends, but Hanahaki disease was used here and I'm losing me fucking mind, okay? Rose had deep feelings for Kat rejected them out of fear, and Rose had to use their unrequited feelings to feed an abnormality to prevent a terrible calamity befalling the entire branch, ultimately resulting in Rose's death. Near the end of the story, Kat distorts into a monstrous creature, and Ty, using the special gear that was obtained from Rose's death, manages to help them return to normal with Rose's spiritual gay help, basically. Of course, though, Zet hated this webcomic. No surprise there! When Project Moon announced the webcomic is no longer available, he proudly says, "So the Abnos are canon now, but the rest of Wonder Lab isn't. What an absolute play." And, it's still canon, but the characters will most likely not show up again. Thankfully. Like, Whoa, dude. What is your issue with non-defined gender characters when literally the entirety of Project Moon's games have so many overall designs that are, again, androgynous or questionable? Bro, seek some help for real. And okay, fine. If the webcomic that was canon isn't enough for Zet, then what about Lobotomy Corporation itself? In here, there's a character named Benjamin, who literally was the only person who stayed by the main character's side because he believed in him and was willing to subject himself to basically thousands of years of torture, all for his pure faith that the world that the main character wanted to see will one day come to fruition. He even says, in this story, I wish to be your shadow, forever behind you, even if I am not good enough. May we be together and fade away together. This old man here just straight up proposed to be together with this other guy. Like, bro, if that isn't pure undying gay old man love, even if one-sided, I don't know what is. So it just baffles me that this guy claims to be a Project Moon fan, licks Project Moon's boots during the artist controversy when many were hesitant and questioning, yet somehow ignores or dismisses all the very clear gay subtext present throughout each part of Project Moon's games. Like, yeah, it's not explicitly gay, like no one smooches or woohoos, but you have to be lying to yourself to think that this highly romantic language being used is purely platonic either. That's a lot of coping. But considering this guy was happy about a woman artist losing her job, it doesn't surprise me that he also doesn't properly respect artists in general. It's not uncommon that you'll run into the occasional VTuber that disrespects artists, despite artists literally being the lifeblood of VTubers. Hell, you can just look at my recent video to see a pure example of this thing happening. But for Zet in particular, he doesn't have credits in his Twitter bio, which is usually typical and standard for most VTubers. He has some credits in his Twitch bio, but only for one of his models. He uses at least 4 different models from what I could see. One is briefly credited back in 2021 in one tweet when he showcased the model initially. Another is credited only when someone commented "cute model" under one of his schedules back in 2022. And the last model is this one, which I couldn't find the credits to in any easy accessible place. He also uses fan art and memes for his thumbnails, which as far as I can tell are not credited appropriately and probably not used with permission, so overall, pretty scummy dude. But what baffles me most is that in 2021, he at least seemed okay or neutral on the LGBT plus community with this post here, where he's gonna play indie games made by the queers. But somewhere in these 3 years, he seemed to have taken one too many red pills and lost his way. Personally, I think this guy just brushed shoulders with the wrong crowd and didn't have the high fortitude to resist the sanity damage, and thus adopted the wrong ideologies into his core. If he used to be supportive or neutral in the past, I can only imagine what happened to lead him down such a stray, dark path. Being clowned on tends to cause these people to double down instead, feeling vindicated in their hatred of the rainbow. So all I can say is, just avoid this guy. If you want to support Project Moon creators who are supportive of Pride Month, please check out Absolute Pride Resonance. It is a fan-made Project Moon Pride Month charity event that runs for this entire month where all funds go to Outright International, which supports LGBTQ+ rights globally. There's incentives for reaching certain milestones, and on the first day, they've already raised 5.5k out of their projected 10k. Go support them on their streams or donate at the link in the description below. Overall, there may be an occasional bad egg, but these rotten eggs will always reveal their stench eventually. It just so happens it occurred on the first day of Pride Month and all over a meme character holding a pride flag by a fan artist. Which, by the way, Zet retweeted from this artist in the past and also commissioned an undercharging transgender artist for a custom 3D model, and simply told them to get over it, kid. Okay. All I'm gonna say is, don't bite the hand that feeds you, sir. When the fan community is built on the backs of queers and allies, along with many people who resonate with the subtext within the games that you claim you're a fan of, don't piss them off, because surely the goodwill that the people once gave you will no longer be there. Before you know it, you'll be left with only yourself and the toxic people who perpetuated the narrative that poisoned your mind in the first place. I know for sure that such behavior will never, ever be accepted in this active and thriving niche community. And for the rest of y'all who stuck around to the end of the video, thank you! If you haven't played any of Project Moon's games before and don't know where to start, I highly recommend Limbus Company. It's completely free and it's by far one of the most generous gachas I've played, and I've tried a lot of gacha games. You also don't need to be familiar with the world to get into it, since it is the third in the series, technically, since the main character, thankfully, has amnesia. Yippee! If you find that you like the world of Limbus Company, perhaps you'll be drawn into the other games, like I have. Of course, you can always start with Lobotomy Corporation if you insist, but just know that all these games have very different and pretty unique gaming styles, and they are also basically visual novels with substantial gameplay. However, the community is always welcoming and willing to help, and there are many resources to go to, including tutorial videos here on YouTube in case the in-game tutorials are, not satisfactory. Otherwise, you're always welcome to check out my VODs channel for my gameplay of Limbus and Library of Runa, and a little bit of Lobotomy Corporation. Or you can follow me over on Twitch where I sometimes stream Limbus Company when there's new content. Links in the description. I post-editing staff here. Just wanted to let you know that I will be opening up, well, technically they're already open, but they're YouTube memberships. If you are interested, I will be bringing back YouTube streams. And yeah, feel free if you are interested, feel free to hit that join button. I would really appreciate it, but you know, no pressure or anything. Videos will still be as regular as I can make them, which is at least monthly so far. Okay, anyway, continuing on. And I think that's about it. Thank you again for listening, everyone. I do appreciate it. Happy Pride Month to all who celebrate, and keep it vibing, you guys. Till next time, bye!